Okay, so we understand there's different kinds of reinforcement. First we're going to talk about two called positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement. Now positive reinforcement is very simple. Doing something gives you a pleasurable stimulus, and that gives you a reward. And it encourages to repeat the behavior. So if you press a lever, the rat learns to press the lever. There's positive reinforcement if there's food that comes out. And we talked about how there's a stimulate. If you could put electrodes into the pleasure center of the rat can learn to press the button and experience pleasure. So that's also positive reinforcement right there. How about when you're not using rats, though, when you're actually using humans? What would positive reinforcement look like? It could be something, what are pleasurable? Food is also pleasurable. Kids love ice cream. I love ice cream. Maybe people want hugs, physical contact, warmth, shelter. So anything that gives them a positive response, a pleasurable response, is some kind of positive reinforcement. Compare that with negative reinforcement. It's when there's a negative stimulus, something that the animal or the person doesn't like, and they have to do something to remove and avoid that stimulus. So for example, in the Skinner box, it could be that the bottom of the cage is electrified, so the animal gets shocked. And that's negative stimulus. And the animal has to press a lever to turn off the electric shock. So in that case, that's negative reinforcement. There's something bad that you want to take away, and that reinforces the behavior. So I have here, for example, pressing an alarm clock in the morning. Right? You're trying to sleep, you're having a good time, and the alarm clock goes off. The alarm is a negative stimulus. You don't like the sound of it. And so what do? You slam the snooze button, right? And so that reinforces the behavior that after you press the snooze button, things become normal again, you're having a good time. So that reinforces that behavior of hitting the snooze button. Does it make sense? Hope that makes sense. So that's negative reinforcement, which is there's a bad stimulus that you want to turn off. There's another kind called omission training, which is you withhold the reward until the desired behavior is demonstrated. That's also very similar, which is that until the rat does something, you don't give it the food. So you withhold the food, the reinforcer, until the animal does something. That way, it decreases the frequency of the behavior until that behavior is done, right? So let's talk about the most famous study that looks at observational learning, and this is done by Albert Bandura. I forgot to write that here. Bandura was a researcher at Stanford at the time, and he devised this very interesting study, one of the most famous studies in social psychology. And basically he recruited a bunch of boys and girls, to come into the lab, and there's a room full of toys, lots of fun toys, beautiful, clean, shiny toys to play with. Before they did that though, the kids were shown like a video of an adult playing in that room. Basically there is a Bobo doll. If you don't know what a Bobo doll is, I'll draw one out for you right now. Basically it's like an inflatable toy that's kind of blown up, and there's like a weight in the bottom, and like there's eyes here, and there's a weight here, and basically you just hit the target. If you punch it, boom, the target will go down and then come back up again. There might be different names in your culture, but this is one of those inflatable toys. So in the room, there's one of these toys that's shaped like a clown. And so in the video, the kids watch an adult beat this clown up. So the adult is like punching it and kicking it, and also uses other toys to hit it, right? In one case, the adult sits on the toy and then uses a mallet from a music toy and punches the nose of the toy. And so Bandura is interested in whether children will imitate this kind of behavior. And so first thing they did was they had to frustrate the children a bit. They would say, oh, you can't play with these toys yet, not yet, you have to wait. So the kids get really frustrated and angry, right? And finally they went into this room and they looked at how often the kids would beat up the Bobo doll. In fact, they looked at two separate things. First of all, do the kids imitate the beating behavior, the violent behavior? And secondly, do they invent novel ways to attack the doll? So what they found was that for kids who did not see this Bobo doll video with the adult attacking the Bobo doll, the kids did not imitate that behavior at all. So no one spontaneously learned to hit the Bobo doll with those ways. For the kids who were exposed to it, most of them actually did attack this doll. This goes for both male and the boys and girls. They did both things. They imitated exactly the same way the adult hit the doll, punching, kicking, calling the doll names, like pow, pow, get down. And also, they actually invented new ways to attack the doll. They would have involved other toys, skip ropes, things like that to attack this doll. So it's very interesting to see that the kids were actually learning from watching someone else act. Now, if you were a classical conditionist, the classical conditioning and operant conditioning, you can't really explain this kind of behavior because the kids aren't experiencing it, they weren't given any rewards or punishment or learn to associate stimuli, and they're still able to change the behavior. Again, this is learning in that they learn new behaviors because of their experiences. And they learn it just by watching someone else, right? And so we see that it's really alarming really early on that Bandura thought that, wow, these kids learn to be aggressive really quickly just watching an adult act. So whether there's something you could change so the kids could learn different messages. Let's see, so this is the result. Again, the results are observational learning is not just simple imitation, but also learning new strategies and concepts, like when the kids learn to attack the dolls in new and novel ways. It seems like there's a gender matching phenomenon. When the boys were watching a male hit the doll, they were more likely to imitate it, as was a girl watching a woman hit the doll. Just forgot to mention that, sorry. Okay, so in a follow-up study to the Bobo doll aggression study, Bandura put in a different ending to this video. The kids watched the video. A kid was again giving the Bobo doll the smackdown, acting violently aggressive, and they're given, the participant kids, people watching this video, were given one of 3 different endings. In some cases, the child was praised, good job for hitting the doll. In another one, the child was punished, given a timeout. And the third one, the child just walks away without any consequences. So that's kind of the control condition. So they're interested in whether if you change the perceived ending to the person hitting the Bobo doll, would the kids change their behavior too? And of course, Bandura found that yes, they did. You could imagine that participants watching the kid who got praised were more likely to replicate that behavior. The participants who saw the child being punished was less likely to replicate that behavior, and there was like an average amount who saw the child just walk away. So again, it gives us a different story about that observational learning also gets at the ideas of consequence, that people also learn from consequences too. If I see my brother act in a certain way and then get punished, I also learn not to do that, right? That's very interesting.